Okay, today on our Ordinary People, Extraordinary Journeys, we are talking to Nick Larson, and he has this amazing story in his life, his young life, because he's not very old yet. And he shared this story in a church meeting that we were in, at least some very limited parts of it. And I was so fascinated, and I said, hey, would you come on and talk to me about this journey that you've been on. So this little title is going to be Vaulting to New Heights. And so, Nick, before we jump into the journey that we're going to talk about, tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your background, kind of where you are in your life.
Let's see here. Family, I am one of the siblings of 7, so nice big family. Lots of relatives to bounce ideas off of and learn and grow. So it's been a lot of fun. I lived in Casper, Wyoming when I was born till about 13. So I was kind of born and raised there. Lived in Texas for, what was that, 8th grade to graduation from high school. So I was a fun learning curve there too.
Mm-hmm.
Opposite weather. What else? I love to build things. That's definitely my go-to hobby, especially with what I want to do for work and all that stuff. Love to help people. Love to learn how to optimize lots of outcomes. So,
And you just are graduating, right?
yes, I just graduated from BYU.
Nice. And how long were you in school there?
I was there for 4 years.
Oh, okay.
If memory serves me right.
And you're married,
Yes.
right? No children?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
One on the way, though.
Oh, that's right. One on the way. Very exciting. Well, that's awesome. Very good. Now, where are you in the lineup of the 7?
I am the direct middle.
Okay.
I am the middle child. Yep.
Oh, very awesome. Okay, well, sweet. I always like to kind of visit a little bit about who you are, because that's a fun part of the journey too. But what we're here to talk about today is this journey that you experienced actually through an accident. So I'm going to kind of let you just take over and talk about getting into pole vaulting, kind of how that played out, where you were in your career at that time. Obviously, you were in high school, I'm assuming. And just give us some background information and then tell us, and then we'll get into what happened.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I started pole vaulting my freshman year of high school. It just seemed like a sport that was different, honestly. It was just a different sport, and I found it very interesting because everything about it was your own skill, your own speed, how much you're willing to progress or not. And I thought that was very unique. And most of my, friends and teachers and coaches at that time would qualify me as like not fearless, but like willing to try something hard, I guess would be the way to say that. And I did. I loved it. It was really, really cool. I did that all the way up to my senior year. And in my earlier days of like pole vaulting and training and all that stuff, I wasn't like amazing because I had just started my freshman year. Most people start way younger.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
It's a long training curve. It's very steep to get into it. So,
do they do it in junior high still then? Or is it like a club thing? Because that's really young.
My guess is it's a lot more of a club thing.
Okay.
I never got into it in a club because I didn't know they existed until my freshman year.
Okay.
And then junior and my senior year, I excelled quite rapidly at it. I was doing really, really good. Kind of my warm-up height at that time, before meets and stuff, was about 12 feet just for like warm-up, which most people would be impressed at. And it's really cool to say that, it's like my warm-up was 12 feet. And then during my junior year, I was able to, reach about like 13 and a half, 14 feet as my highest PR, my personal record, as they would say. And then my senior year was probably my best year, you know, and I was hitting 14, 14 and a half, 15, and I was really pushing to go above 16 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I'd won, I think, every track meet that I went to, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Which was,
Well, especially, that's that
Yeah.
senior year, right? It's like nice
it's
to have the.
I'm doing so good. It was amazing. And then, so I had won all of my meets, and then I think is it regionals and then state?
Yeah, I think so. It doesn't do regionals and then state and then nationals?
And then nationals.
Something like that. Something like that.
Yeah. So I had won my regionals meet. I had won my state meet, and then I was on track to go to my nationals meet in San Antonio, Texas at the time. I was definitely training so that I could get some scholarships.
Okay.
I was planning on getting a scholarship to BYU, actually.
Uh-huh.
And any other scholarships that I would be able to get from that. So that was a highlight of the time. I was excelling. I was doing so good, and felt like I was on top of the world, as they would say. And then it was the day before the regionals or area. I think it was my last track meet there. And I was practicing on a mat. Where was it? It was close to my school. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have been able to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was open, and they let me go train on it and stuff. And that's where my accident actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the day before my final meet, the really big meet and stuff. And the only facts that we know now is that the mat was too short, and that's why I had my accident. But yeah.
Interesting, because I told you I did a little bit of research because I thought, the pole vaulting, we don't hear a lot about pole vaulting, right? But it in the research that I did, the injuries are actually it's a low amount. Like there's not a high percentage of them, but they can be very, very severe. But in one of the things it was saying that they changed, I think it was after 2003, the landing pad like that. I think it's the sizing of it that had changed. And so were you actually on like a pre-change or was it just, do you know,
That's
on that
a really
one?
good question.
Oh, okay.
As far as I know, it was just one of the mats
That they
on the campus at the time. So other than that, I don't know what year
Gotcha.
it was made. But it's just, that special day, I guess.
Well, I mean, that seemed to be the when I looked at the information, that was one of the things that stood out was like the landing pad that changed, and that made a big difference in the drop of injuries that they saw in it.
I could definitely see that. And like in all of my, 4 years of doing pole vaulting and all that, the most I think I'd ever seen is a really bad sprained ankle. I've seen people fall off the mats and stuff, but usually they land on it, roll off, or they'll land wrong on the mat and they'll twist their ankle or something. So usually they're not too bad injuries that I've ever experienced myself, other than mine.
Yeah, and even that's what the research said too. It's just usually it could be. Obviously, like your injury was very traumatic, but for the most part, they're not. So, okay, let's get to that day and kind of walk us through that day, and let's talk about what happened on that day.
Yeah. As far as I remember, I was just practicing I had 2 different pole vaulting poles. So one was I think it was a 15-foot long pole, and then the other one was a 16-foot long pole. Not too much of a drastic difference there. One would get me a little bit higher, and I was training on and off both of them. As far as I remember, it was a very foggy day for me. That day in general, it was a very normal school day. I was taking some dual enrollment classes, so I was in the normal, math and stuff, and I had biology that day, and apparently I dissected a pig.
Which that one's gone. And you
I don't remember
that.
that, but everybody says I did really good at it. So after school, that was when practice was for me. So I went out, had my coach, and I always have people recording me for references to see where I can improve. So I was just like, I still have some of the videos from
that's
that
okay.
day.
We'll
Yeah,
just.
I know. I don't care to show those ones,
No.
but as far as like watching the videos goes and stuff, because that was kind of how I had to remember that day. It was seeing, I guess, how it happened. But it was just a normal day. I was just, practicing and like training, pushing myself to reach the heights I had desired and all that. And obviously my last jump was the one that I got really, really hurt on, but it looked like every other jump. I don't know exactly what changed, or maybe it was just that the look of the draw. I don't know, but like I said, the mat was too short. So when I came down, more than half of my body was stretched on the outer skirts of the mat, and I compressed it all the way to the ground, and I hit my head on the concrete behind the mat. And that created some detrimental injuries to my skull. And that's kind of like how my accident happened. I was just practicing and had a really bad fall, and it cracked my skull, and it did a lot of damage to that part of my head. And there's definitely some miracles abound somehow, because after my accident, there was just an ambulance really close by. And that's probably why I'm still here, because they didn't give me very much time to survive. They rushed me to the hospital literally as fast as they could. And there was a masterful neurosurgeon there. I don't know exactly what he did, but they just said that they did a bunch of experimental surgeries, just stuff that's never really been done, just to see if they could save my life at the time. So that was really, really crazy, I guess.
So you went up over, so you had a clean over it, but then when you went down, it was on the back side
Very,
of that.
very back
Okay,
edge of the
and
mat.
so about half your body compressed, and then your head hit. Oh my goodness. Oh well, it's a good thing you don't remember those.
Yeah, it'd be worse if it did.
Yeah. So you get to the hospital. Amazing. And obviously, we see these things in life, right? What we call miracles, because there is a good, there's a timing issue, obviously, to where you were. And so you get there, and they're all, I'm sure everybody's just in a frenzy to get stuff going. Was it a decent sized hospital they took you to, or?
I don't remember much.
Okay.
I do remember that some of the rooms I was in were mostly the intensive care unit.
Right.
So that was definitely smaller, of like a building. I don't remember anything about the surgeries.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was sleeping for those. Yeah, probably a decent size.
I mean, it makes you wonder, because, depending
it
on
does
what
make me
hospital
wonder.
you go to, but, if you've got that great neurosurgeon that was there. So in the result of the accident, I'm assuming that the skull cracked and stuff. Is that
Yes.
kind of what happened?
So the left side of my skull actually concave, so it went into my head, so like it broke and fell into my brain. There was lots of swelling and lots of bleeding and damage that happened there, and they had to cut half of my skull away so that they could relieve the pressure from my brain swelling. They had to actually remove part of my brain, so that it would, create less of a infection or further damage. So they actually had to remove parts of my brain. And a lot of that actually was the Warnickies and the Broca's area. of my brain, and that's speech and speech recognition.
Okay.
So they had very little, I don't know what the word would be for that, like expectations for me to ever speak and be able to receive knowledge of other people speaking to me. From
Because
that.
that's that center of speech. Okay.
And they had to remove pretty much all of it because of the severity of my damage to my brain.
Oh my goodness. And that's just the beginning,
That
right?
was just the beginning.
Right.
Half the right side of my body, which was ironic because I injured the left side of my brain, but the right side of my body was not paralyzed, but my like mental capacity to utilize the right side of my body was very limited, I guess you could say. It was really hard to move my arms and my hand. And
Like it wasn't connecting.
right.
Okay.
It just wasn't really connecting to move them, and I couldn't speak. It was just like my tongue was heavy. I don't even know how to explain it, but I just couldn't speak.
But everything you could hear and knowledge, thinking, and all of those kinds of things, which could be frustrating in itself.
Mentally, my brain, was still running. It was still humming, and I could think and all that stuff. But when I wanted to say things or just to move, that half of my body, it was just a struggle. Very, very hard.
So that first night, I'm sure it was pretty scary. I would imagine your family probably has talked to you about.
Yeah, so I was in a coma for 3 days after that, and
Was that induced or was that?
it was induced.
Okay.
It was induced. So when I came to the hospital, I was completely blacked out and just seizing and all of the things that they don't want in an emergency case.
Right.
And then after they stabilized me and did the surgery on my brain, I actually was recovering to any degree that they were hoping for. So that was really good. They did place me in a medically induced coma so that my brain wouldn't have the extra load of me trying to think or to move my body or to do most of those things. So they put
And
me
is
in
that a
coma.
chemical that they use, like a medicine or something that induces that? Okay.
Pretty much a really heavy sedation.
Okay.
So they put me in the coma, and they alerted my whole family. They told them to come as soon as possible because they didn't know the outcome at that time. They were like, there's a really good chance that he passes away in the night. There's a really good chance that if he progresses, that he'll be a vegetable for the rest of his life. So they had to do some heavy contemplations at that time. They didn't know if I should be a donor, if I should be just keep me on life support, see how I do. It was my family definitely has expressed their emotions at that time, and it was really hard for them. They didn't know if they should purchase a spot in a grave for me. They didn't know if they should wait. Totally understandable though. I look back and I was on the verge of living or dying, and it was a hard time for everybody, and they all flew in because most of my family was kind of in Texas. So they were able to drive, but a lot of my family was in Idaho or Utah at the time. So they all had to fly down, and they kind of just bought the most expensive ticket they could because it was just
trying to get there.
Trying to get there.
Yeah, we do that with our families. It's like, we just need to get there no matter what. So you go into that night, and I'm sure the family is, comforting and trying to figure things out. Not that they could make any decisions probably at that point. And then you're in that coma for 3 days. As they got into the second day, did your family say that they were a little bit more, wow, he made it through the night? Like, were you when you're on an induced coma, are you on life support in there, or is your body functioning so keeping you? Do you know that?
I actually don't know much about if I was on life support.
Okay.
Or if my heart was bumping for me.
Okay.
I don't know that. I know that I was hooked up to so many cords. And they had like breathing tubes and food tubes and everything to keep
Is
me
that
under.
that
And
picture that you showed us? You want to
Yes.
you can put that up
yes,
there.
I
and
can put
let's-
that up. Let's see here. So there's a lot of them, but basically that was me at the time. There's a little wrapper on my head there, and it says no bone on left skull on left side.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah,
they
just so
had-
everybody knew that, right?
Mhm.
Any
They had already
nurses coming
taken
in?
out my skull, and they just were trying to warn everybody to be super delicate with that side of my brain, because it was pretty much,
Well,
a few
exposed, right?
a few
I was gonna say-
millimeters of layers between there.
just the bandage and
Yeah.
then,
But they just had breathing tubes, obviously, and food and all that stuff, just hooking me up to as much as they could. I
right.
think at that time.
Very interesting. Later on in the conversation, had that neurosurgeon ever seen anything like that before? The doctors that treated you?
Not at that severity, and at a rate which I like. Obviously, later on, I actually met with my neurosurgeon, and he kind of went over some of the diagnoses and potential risks for my future. He's saying, because you're Wernicke's and Broca's area, you may have already noticed this, which I did. It was really hard to like say things I wanted to. And he also told me risks of like continued speech impediments, or just, trying to get my words across, and potential issues with the right side of my body, neurological pathways not being able to function in ways that I would want them to, or like a normal person would expect them to, and all that stuff. But he was incredibly surprised at the rate of recovery at that time that I had been able to achieve. It was unprecedented for the severity of the accident I had. He's like, I've seen people, with much less of a head injury than you that are, completely vegetableized or imparalyzed for life. So
Wow. That's just amazing. So you're in that induced coma 3 days. And then was it the doctor's decision? Hey, do they pull you out of that coma? How did you come back to kind of the world?
So as far as the stories are told, they wanted to actually keep me under for much longer, but my body and its metabolism was wearing through their medications and stuff so fast that like I would start waking up, and then they would put me back under, and then I would like start to wake up again and like start to come to, and they didn't want that happening. And so they just, decided after a 3-day coma period, they were like, well, like he's just going to try and keep waking up. Like his body just like won't accept the medication. So they let me naturally, kind of come out of the last day of that coma. And I don't remember anything for the next like 2 weeks after coming out of the coma, because my brain was so mangled and
Right.
and trying to reconnect all of those synapses and connections to help me remember things. But after about 2 weeks, I have like fragments of those memories, and people like my dad would ask me like, what's his name? And it was, hindsight's 2020. I now remember those things, and I just remember looking back, and he's like, oh, like, I mean, I think you're my dad. Like I couldn't really remember, and people had just had told me that, like, this is your dad, this is your mom, like these are your siblings, and they tell me their names. And it was very difficult on them, probably even more so than me, because I wasn't aware that, I had such a heavy memory loss at the time.
Right. So in the 2-week frame, so they did the initial surgery and relieving and all that kind of stuff. Were there more surgeries after that? Did you?
Yes, there were more surgeries to come. My second one was actually a month out from the initial surgery, because my brain swelling was so bad that they had to leave that part of my skull out. And Medically, actually, kind of a unique story is my case was so severe that in a lot of cases when you have a head injury like that and they do remove a part of your skull, they'll actually make an incision near your abdomen and they'll put that part of your skull in your abdomen, and that keeps it at the same temperature and blood can still get there and keep it healthy. But in my case, I was so severe that they actually put it in a cryogenic freezer.
Really? I was wondering about that. I was like, okay, they
Yep.
take it out, or are they going to put it back in?
Yeah, so they took it out, and my case was so severe that they didn't plan on, doing any other openings on my body so that my body would, have enough energy to focus on healing, the severity of my accident. So in that, that 2-week period, they put me through to the intensive care unit, the ICU, and they just put me under lots of medications, and they, tried to monitor just every, aspect of my body that they could. Which is really good because they found a lot of issues that were happening. I had this thing called salt flushing.
Oh.
So my body and my brain just would like flush out as much salt as it could, which was really bad because your body needs a lot of salt.
Yeah, you get a sodium deficiency or something,
so
and
I
that's
had
dangerous.
some really bad sodium deficiencies, so they had to put me on lots of salt options and all that.
Now, was that a result of the accident or just something that was going on in your body already?
Or no, just my accident. For some
okay.
reason, there was this negative feedback loop, or is it positive? I can't remember. But just a loop that, was like, oh, there's something really wrong happening.
So it was giving signals that were inaccurate and it was releasing your sodium. Okay.
Yep. So my brain was just, thinking of something to do, and it was just like, well, a really good thing to do, waste all of the salt.
We'll just drop it all.
So I was getting pretty, sick for that. Not like throwing up, but sick in a different way. So they put me on lots of salt, and they got that finally under control. And in that 2-week time period, they tried to test different parts of my motility and what could I do and what could I not do. Could I eat on my own? Could I like swallow? What were my limitations? And lots of testing, lots of trial and error trying to get me to function because I don't remember any of it. And I was pretty hard to deal with as they were describing because I was like a child. I just didn't really have very much higher level of functioning at the time. So they would try to get me to eat something, and I would like reject it, or I just like would think that they were like trying to do something to me. Maybe I was paranoid or something. It was a hard time for everybody at that time. But after the 2 weeks, that's when I kind of remember people asking me like what my name was, and I remember them trying to put my hands on like a bicycle for your hands and seeing if like my right side of my arms and stuff would cooperate, and I don't remember much. I remember it was really difficult to do it, and my right hand kept falling off, and it was very, very frustrating, I would say.
So as you come through that 2 week and you're starting to remember things, somewhat. So what was after that 2 week, where were you at like capability wise? Like where were you in the skills that, you would normally have, like your speech and your movement and those kinds of things?
Oh, they were struggling quite severely, actually. I couldn't really walk. They had to support my entire body to give me a few steps and like try to train, my leg, and same thing with my arm, which is why they gave me like the bicycle for my hands. And as far as speech goes, it was very limited. Most of the time I could only say 1 or 2 words, and it was usually just the same word. Actually, one of them was my sister's name, Hannah. I could only say her name, so everybody would ask me what their names were, and I was like, I think it's Hannah, because that's all I had. And that went on for a really long time. It was really hard for me to get words that I wanted to say. It was almost like I knew what I wanted to say, but like getting them out was like impossible. And it was just so frustrating. And same thing for the right side of my body. When I wanted to move it, I was like thinking about it really, really hard. And I was like, all right, lift, my right arm or my right leg and hold on to this cup, or, try to take another step, and all those things. And it was just like, I needed to be assisted all the time. And I just had to progress super slowly.
Now, are you right-handed?
I'm left-handed.
You are left-handed. So were you able to write at all?
No.
No, because there's probably some mix-up there too, right?
It was a mental mix-up at that time,
right.
Like just trying to read or to write or do very basic math and things. It was just like not computing in my brain at that time. Everything was a really big challenge for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. So we get past that. So once you're past that 2 week, the concerns, do the physical concerns lessen a little bit as they start thinking about what the long-term effects are? Because obviously you have healed some, like your body is healing, so they didn't have a fear of you not living at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the surgeons and my family and stuff, they're like, okay, this is probably the new, Nick. And they're like, we'll take it, because the alternative was gruesome and sad. So they were just kind of really, really happy with any progress that I was able to achieve. And at that time I could I had a month in the hospital, and then I had the rehab, which is a lot of where, my motility and stuff was progressing. And it was slow and very difficult progress, but I was able to, start to walk independently, and I was able to, use to some degree my right arm, and I was able to make sentences semi-coherent, I guess you could say. And I could, be able to distinguish who people were. I didn't remember the previous connections to them, but I could understand that they were my family members, but I just didn't remember anything prior than my accident. So it was an interesting, difficult little time.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into that as you start talking about, okay, I'm starting to get some motility. What did that look like in a day, in your daily life? Like you were in the hospital for a month, you said. Then you went to rehab. So what was that like in the rehabilitation center that you were at? What was that daily life like there?
Do you remember? Frustrating.
Okay.
Oh, they... obviously probably weren't even pushing me to my limits, but they're just trying to get me to go upstairs or downstairs or, lift some weights with my arms. And they're giving me, mathematical equations. I'm more like 2 + 2 and memory quizzes and reading and all that stuff. And it was like school, but the worst school you've ever been to. It was super hard on me, and it was a really dark point in my life emotionally. I was just so incredibly depressed, and it was a dismal time.
So, and I can understand that. I mean, I would think that would be a really, really hard time. When in that kind of time frame did you feel like, I'm Nick? Because you said you were kind of out of it, right? And trying to get back and not knowing people and stuff. Was the frustration also not even recognizing kind of your own self, like your physicalness and everything that was limiting at that time?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. It was kind of everything. When I discovered it was me was months later. Like
Okay.
I didn't really know who I was, or
Mm-hmm.
what I had achieved in past post accident, or prior accident, I guess. And best way I could explain it at the time was I kind of made my own personality. So I thought, but I just had not really much to go on other than what my family members would say of me. You're so smart, or you were so athletic, and you were
Mm-hmm.
so strong, and you love to help people. You were always so happy. Kind of just all the affirmations that they would want you to remember, or to hopefully get back to, okay, in the occasions. But more than that, I was like, okay, who am I? What am I gonna? Who am I gonna be? What am I gonna do? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how far can I excel? And I think some of the hardest things for me personally at the time was understanding that I was in a state of unknowing, I guess, like just sheer forgetfulness. I was just didn't have amnesia, but I
Mm-hmm.
just couldn't remember anything from my past. And I was like, what am I going to do in the future? Am I just going to be like an old man who knows nothing? And it, like, obviously it was, future tripping, I guess, but it was really daunting at the time to think that like my future could admit to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably my biggest fear.
Right. Well, we connect to our past because that's what helps make us who we are,
Yeah.
right? So I would imagine it's very disconcerting to sit there and think, I don't remember anything. So actually, who am I, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because here I am, and all these people know me, but I don't
Absolutely.
really know myself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it took months of me, like doing the same things that I had done prior to my accident to spark a memory, or to trigger, a response that had happened previously. And that's kind of how my memory started to unfold and come back to me, is I would say something that, gave me like a memory of something I might have said previously, or smelled something, or like, had a routine that I had before, and all that stuff. And that's kind of how my memories kind of came back to me. And over time, they would come back a little bit faster and faster. But it was a very interesting process to see the personality that I had, kind of made for myself, and the personality that I had before, and the things I knew to start to merge and create this like utopia in my own brain of like, almost like, what did I want to keep and what did I want to give away, kind
Mm-hmm.
of. It was a really unique time for me to experience those emotions, and it was emotionally taxing.
Mm-hmm.
It was very emotional and hard on me, because I was like, how am I going to become that again? Like, I'm so far away and all those things. So it's pretty difficult.
And in that kind of darkness, was there an experience? Was there a person? Was there something that you held on to or that helped you the most to kind of come out of that particular spot in your life?
Probably my mom. Yes. She was my rock, as most people would say. She never gave up hope on my recovery and what I could become, and she was always hopeful, and she just would go far out of her way to help me with anything that I was struggling with. And she'd, take care of me on a day to day while I was recovering, and helping and feeding me, obviously. And it was a massive help at that time. She would take a lot of time away from her own, life and stuff to nurture me back to, a path of recovery, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. So
So Which moms do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Mother's Day coming up, it's kind of
Absolutely.
a good way to honor moms for that, for sure. So, how long were you in the rehab center? And at what juncture did you really feel like I'm getting this? Like, was it in rehab or was it after you left rehab and went home and were?
It was post rehab,
Okay.
honestly. So during my rehab time, I don't remember the exact timeline, but it felt like an eternity. But it was a lot of my recovery was definitely post therapy and all that stuff, because they got me to a point where I was like, checked off.
Yeah,
I guess,
all of the things
all
that,
of the
yeah.
boxes that they wanted me to do. Like, I was coherent enough to make sentences. I could do, like some memorizing flashcards and things like that. And I was improving at like mathematical skills. So I think they were, in my guesses, why they would do those things is they're probably just different parts of the brain. So they're just testing if, different parts of my brain were working enough.
Mm-hmm.
And my movement had come back pretty smoothly, I guess you could say. That sounds ironic, but I could walk, and I could move the right side of my body once again.
Now, did that happen in the rehab center after the hospital, or were you able to do some walking because you were in the hospital a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
A little bit in the hospital, mostly hands-on there.
right.
Lots of support, lots of nurses, lots of people helping me walk and move and all that stuff. And most of my, recovery in the rehab center, which was where I started to be able to walk and all that stuff. And that's where they finally checked me off. And it was kind of a interesting time for me, because I knew that I wasn't 100% where I wanted to be, because I knew that the right side of my body was acting up.
Mm-hmm.
It was just not, it felt like it just wasn't as strong as the left side of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to the gym, and I just I couldn't lift the same amount of weight as I did on my left side of my body. And it was a very perplexing time for me,
Mm-hmm.
But my brother, he also took good care of me. He'd actually take me to the gym, and he would help me work out and all that stuff, and try to get, that motility back, and really strengthen those pathways to my arms, and and how they should move and all that stuff. And I can definitely say that helped a lot for me, was going to the gym and just working out for 15 minutes, just a very short activity there. And
now, at that point, were you remembering him yet, or was it just, I know this is my brother and he's helping me?
Right. It was a lot of that.
Okay.
It was a struggle, because it was there should be so much more.
Right. The bonding
of a
yeah.
background
Yeah.
to how this should feel, but it was almost like I knew he was my brother, but he's also kind of my trainer. And it was such an interesting, dynamic for me at the time. And obviously, as the months unfolded, our connection grew, and my memory of the crazy things that we had done all our lives, started to come back. And
which was probably such a relief to him.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, because we had, we were two peas in a pod. We still are, but.
Now, is it the brother that just left, or a different brother?
No, he's my older brother.
Oh, okay.
Same thing with my younger brother, though. We were definitely two peas in a pod. We tight sibling group, I guess you could say. But yeah,
So then you get home. So you've got through that month. They've checked off the boxes, which they do in hospital type situations. Oh, well, you could do this, and you go home. And what's it like at home? I'm assuming you're with your mom and family there.
Yes.
So
Yeah, difficult. One word description, but it was just so unique. I felt babied, which was completely understandable, because I couldn't even get up the stairs myself, and it was just really hard to see everybody take it so easy on me and kind of work in that dynamic where everybody was like let's just make sure that he has like zero loads on him, no mental like thoughts and all that stuff, and try to make it really easy for him to handle his life and recovery and all that stuff, which to some degree I definitely appreciated, and to some degree I wish I felt a little bit more like a human, because they definitely took really good care of me. And that was difficult. But as the months, went on, they would, give me a little bit more lenience on how much I could do, and if I could go up the stairs myself, and if they needed to watch me or not. And it was also a very strange time because I was starting to remember I had hobbies and I had things I liked to do and I wanted to do and all that stuff. And part of that was actually at the time I had bought before my accident, I got into 3D printing.
Oh.
And I thought that was really cool. And after my accident, I had like no idea how to use it. And it was like learning 2.0. And it was just such a interesting mental like hardship for me, was like trying to get back to the things that I knew I had previously loved, like trying to, understand simple things like, simple things to my understanding previous to my incident. So, and it was just a challenge, but it was a gratifying challenge, I guess I could also say. It wasn't like all horrible, it was like the milestones were something that like pushed me forward. It was just like I could walk, and that was just such a massive milestone, and
Right.
I could move my arm, and that was a milestone, and I could remember my family members and a little bit of like things that we had done like months ago, and then it was like after months it was like years, and then it was decades, or stuff like that. But it was all these milestones and stuff were just like my fuel at the time. It was just things that I just like wouldn't give up. I was just determined to keep going.
And did you celebrate the milestones?
I did. Most of the time I would like tell my family, I was like, guys, like I don't like check this out, or that was definitely my personality. I was like, all right guys, check this out, look what I can do now. And it was the same milestones for them. They're like, he's progressing, and just like I said with my neurosurgeon and stuff, like he was astonished by the amount of recovery that I was accomplishing, and I'm sure they wrote lots of articles on my progression and stuff. So somewhere in the medical world, I'm sure I'm famous. but it was such a unique time, and hindsight's 20/20, and I could definitely say I don't know if I'd give it up, because it made me who I am, with the fervor that I have and the determination that I have, and my outlook on life that I now have found because of such a unique time in my life, and the ups and lows, and the happy times, and just the absolute rock bottoms that I experienced. It was a roller coaster.
Oh, for sure. So let's segue a little bit into, because obviously you were in school, right? So in track and field's usually spring. Is it a spring sport or was it?
Yeah.
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 So what happened to schooling? Like what all happened there?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. I totally forgot about that. In school, I think I had a few months left of school, and at the time I was in college classes.
Right.
So I was on my way to get my associate's degree, actually. And at the time that my incident happened, they kind of just like froze my progression, because they didn't know if I was going to come back or if like I was just like done. And when, during the hospital, when they had like done an assessment on me and they declared me kind of like mentally like impaired, all of my GPAs in in all of the classes and stuff that I had taken, they had just like submitted that as my final grade, my final GPA. So I think I went back to school like once during my whole recovery. And it was just because, everybody wanted to see me. I don't know how else to describe that. They just wanted to make sure I was okay. So, I went back to school and I visited with my professors and the principal and everybody because I don't know how it was for them. I haven't even had to think about that, but I'm sure it was hard on them to think that like one of their students was struggling so much. But so I went back and I remember like sitting down in some of my classes just for, a few minutes to see if like I was, coherent and that was also a little hard on me because was doing, pre-calculus and biology and all those really fancy classes, and I remembered none of it, and it was just hard on me because I was like, oh my goodness, like kind of reaffirmed my super low times where I was like, I'm just not going to admit to nothing, I was like my deepest, darkest fear, and I was almost being confirmed, which was really, really scary. But yeah, so during my whole high school / dual enrollment kind of collegiate career there, they just kind of took my GPA and they moved it to my final grades, and that's kind of where they left it. And they were like, if he's okay after that, then like great, like maybe he can keep going to school or something, but like if that's it, like at least he got his GED, So
wow, that's crazy time.
Yeah, it was
okay. So you're home, you're recovering. Is there a moment in time, like you could think of one experience or a memory that came back that you just went like, oh, like a big surprise, like something happened and you're like, oh my goodness, it's there. I remember.
Oh,
or maybe there's more than one.
So many. It's kind of all of them were that way, even the simple ones, honestly, were that way because I had no memory for months, and like the simple things came back, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I remember, what I did in high school. I remember some of my classes or something. And I'd say the biggest ones were family related. I think there's one I remember. It was just a hike, when I lived in Casper, Wyoming, and we went to, I think it was Stewart Falls, if I remember correctly, but I just remembered, all my family members that were there. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like I remember something from a few years ago, and it was just one of those highlights where I was like, oh, my memory's coming back. And it was very celebratory, I guess you could say.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, I bet those moments were quite the celebration because I can't even imagine, Obviously, we have some, as I get older, I have some short-term memory of things, but I can't even imagine, not having that connect because we just connect that way. So, okay, so you're home, you've been home. So what time frame do you feel like, I don't know, 100% recovery is probably not accurate, but where you feel like, oh, I'm really on top, like I'm back, like this is me?
It took about 6 to 7 months of recovery before I was like, okay, like I can accept, that I'm okay, like I'll be okay kind of thing. And at that time I was obviously out of all my education and all that stuff. And I was like, I still wanted to go to school. I wanted to, get my finish my associates and get my bachelor's degree and all that stuff. So I wanted to go back to school. And I actually applied for BYU, Idaho. And everybody's, back then was like, if you get in, like, that's great. Like, I don't know if they'll like check into your accident or anything, or if they have any like, special needs help. So, but I was kind of determined and stubborn that I didn't want any, like extra help. So I took just a very basic introductory 12 credits, and I couldn't do it. I actually ended up dropping pretty much most of my classes, I think, except for like 2 or 3, just to, like help me keep working on my education. But I was just, it was too hard. Like my ability to remember and memorize all of the things was just not quite sufficient at that time. And I think that was like month 8 by the time I went to BYUI for the first semester there. And it was just kind of heartbreaking because I was thinking I was doing good. I could remember names, and I was trying to test myself and trying to learn as much as I could and relearn my 3D printer and all those things that were my hobbies and passions. And I went to that first semester and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm way off from what I had expected. And I remember it was the first 2 weeks that I had dropped all those classes and I was just taking a super light load after that. And it was like not till about halfway through my semester that more milestones started to occur. And I was like, oh my goodness, I remember what I did 3 days ago. It was almost like I had amnesia, but later on I got diagnosed with like that at that time that I just had really bad short-term to long-term memory connections. So it would go to short-term and then it would just kind of fade away. So I just would be able to hold on to things for, 10, 20 minutes. And then like that short-term time would elapse and I just couldn't really keep it in my long-term memory storage. And then, that halfway through the semester, I was like, oh my goodness, like 3 days ago, I remember, some of the, what was I in? I don't remember what classes I was in, but I just remembered some of those classes. And then, a few weeks would go by and I was like, oh, I remember what I did last week. And then it was like, I remember what I did last month. And at that time, it was like the end of the semester. So I was like, wow, like at least I'm getting somewhere. And I was really proud of my progression and some of the things I did. And at that time, I felt like I should do a service mission for the church I belong to. And so I did. And it was 2 years out in Minnesota that I just did lots of service and teachings and helping people. And I can definitely say that also really strengthened my ability to create, clear sentences and be able to speak and understand how people were speaking to me and understand, gestures and those like sub-psychological, like, oh, my time's up, I should probably stop talking to them, they're getting annoyed by me kind of things.
The cues.
Those social cues and all those things. And I, kept going. And once I came home from that mission, I think I was so much better, so much better than when I had ever started. And don't get me wrong, there were still lots of, challenges ahead. But at that point, it had been, 3 years since my accident, that I was finally at that place, so to speak, that you were mentioning, that I was like, I'm me. I'm finally back, like my capacity to do things and my drive and my understanding and my hobbies and everything was just like, I was like, it's me finally. I don't know. It just took a really long time.
So were there's some concerns on having you go serve?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So many. I had to go through a lot of loops to even qualify for service. I just had to go to a bunch of neurosurgeons and I had to, get brain scans and I had to, go and get a full physical checkup of everything of my body. And they had to test my coherency and honestly, one of my neurological, like my neurosurgeons and neuroscientists' biggest fears for me was if I go, some are foreign, and I like leave my apartment or my home. Am I going to make it back?
Right.
Like, would I remember my way back home? For that same reason, they were super afraid to keep me with my driver's license. They didn't know if I would or should drive because of my memory problems and all those issues. And it was very perplexing and frustrating to be like, I think I'm okay, guys. Like, I think I can handle this, but I got all of them to check off on me. And there are still more concerns, which actually did happen on my mission. And one of them was that, like, my post-accident stuff and during my recovery, I had this moment where it's like a stroke is the best way I can explain it. Half of my face and my limbs and my body on that side just looked like I had a stroke. They were super saggy. And they were like, we don't know if that's going to happen again. Like, we don't know what the future holds for him in that, scenario. And once I had gotten all of the acceptances to even, go on my mission and stuff, they were worried that, further issues may occur. And, and they did. On my mission, I had that pretty much same exact thing happen where it was almost like a stroke. And they put me on a special medication for, hopes that it wouldn't happen again. And they had to do tons of tests on my brain and seeing if it was something that they might be able to diagnose or help me with. And they ruled out seizures. So I don't have any seizure-like qualities, but they said if you get migraines across any of the tissue that was damaged on the left side of your brain, it may happen again. And that was not something you'd want to hear, Right. It's like, there's a lot of damaged tissue on that side of my brain. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, is this just going to be something that I have to deal with for the rest of my life? And I've only had it twice since then. Well, altogether, I've only had it twice.
Okay.
First after the accident, and then that second time on my mission, and I haven't had it again. So hopefully, like, we're on a good trajectory. But so it was really hard to get on my mission and to qualify for that. But once I did, it was monumental in my progression and growth.
Really helped a lot. Well, services has a way to do that when we serve other people, right?
Yep.
So I want to go back because we talked way earlier about your skull going into the cryogenic.
Yeah.
And we never kind of, okay,
we did not.
I'm
No, we
assuming
didn't.
it's back.
It's
but,
back.
Okay.
So they obviously, like, had it in the freezer, and after the second surgery where they kind of made sure and assessed my brain on that whole side and, fixed the last things that they needed to, and then they kind of, for lack of better words, closed me up. They put 3 plates and 12 titanium screws in my head and lots of staples. I think I had 72 from the bottom of my ear to the top of my forehead.
Wow.
And it was, now it was awesome. It looked really cool. And my scar is
I'm sure.
is insane. But back then I was like, this is so annoying.
Now, do you have a picture of that you want to share? That would be interesting.
That's a really good
It's
question.
not as gory. We don't want to go to the gory, but guys love scars.
Yeah.
Well, women do too
I think my
sometimes.
phone is dead, actually.
Oh, did you find it? Okay,
Yeah.
that's all right.
Oh, well.
We can go later.
But yeah, I had lots of staples in my head. And I actually, at the time, this was obviously right when I was finishing high school. So I was allowed and permitted to have my name read and then leave, obviously just so that no issues occurred during the ceremony.
Right.
And I couldn't wear my cap or anything because obviously all of my staples and stuff, it would have just really hurt me. But I have a picture from that, and I just have my little cap and gown and my little book in my hands, and I was like smiling, and I was a little totally bald. I was completely bald at the time.
Totally bald, and oh my
And I had
goodness.
so many staples, and I looked like a Frankenstein at the time, and it was such a unique picture for sure.
Oh
But,
my goodness, that's crazy.
yeah.
So, but they did put your piece back in, and then
Yeah.
the screws and all that stuff. Wow, that's
And
amazing.
They did a really good job, but if I ever wanted plastic surgery, it'd be on my forehead, that's for sure, because I have this divot right along here, and it is quite an interesting gap. Honestly, is the best way I could say it. There's a gap in there, and I can it's like a huge crack and divot where they tried to put things back as best as they could, but so much damage and stuff, and they did a great job though. No one would know,
That's
So,
awesome. Well, good. Yeah, I wanted to, when we were talking, I was like, oh, I need to go back and see what happened to that piece.
Yeah.
But okay, so then you serve the mission and you come back, and where do you feel like, okay, so on a scale of, or percentage wise, heading out as compared to coming back, where were you in being complete or whole or whatever you would want to call yourself at that point?
Yeah, heading out on my mission, I'd probably honestly say I was about 65%.
Okay.
I was, stubborn, and I was relentless on the things I wanted to do. And I thought at that time, it was just like, I just wanted to help people. I feel like at the time I had been given so much. I was on Earth still, I was still kicking. So I wanted to do that. And then after those 2 years, of just like nonstop, every day was filled with either like sharing messages or doing so much service, and like having to, think about new things every day and all that stuff, and exercising. I'd say after my accident or mission, I'd say I was, 89, 87%, somewhere around there. And I was feeling really good with that. And that's when I decided I'd want to go back to college, so I went back and, got back into BYU, Idaho. And at the time I really wanted to be a physician. I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon.
Okay.
That was always fascinating to me. And so I started down that path, and I just felt like I needed to go to a different college. Nothing wrong with, BYU, Idaho or anything, but I just felt super strongly that I should go to Provo, just to go to BYU, the big college, And that was kind of one of those, stubborn moments of mine where I was like, I just want to like push myself to the limits, how hard can I push myself kind of things, and and everybody's like, oh, BYU's a little bit scarier. It's harder. It's a harder college and all that stuff. And to some degree, they were definitely right. Like, it's a challenging college and stuff. But so I applied, and I was like, there's no chance I'm getting in. My ACT score was like a 17. It's pretty low. But for some reason, they were like, yeah, you're accepted. Come on. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I'm in. So I went to BYU, and that's actually where I met my wife. So, hindsight's 2020. That's probably why I felt so strongly I should go to BYU. She's definitely the better half of me. Keeps me sane. But it was at BYU, in Provo, actually, where I found my passions, and I found my degree, which was, science or technology and engineering studies. So, which I love. I got to do some amazing things with that already, and I've learned so much. So, but yeah, that 80%, post mission and stuff kind of, continually progressed, and I'd say now I'm, somewhere in the 90s. So.
Well, that is so incredible. So where your doctors are concerned, do they have like long-term issues? Like, do they worry about, as you age and stuff, that there might be other things that come up that are a result of what happened to you.
Right. You know, as soon as I kind of like got out of the hospital and like went to Minnesota and stuff, I kind of lost contact with all of
Okay.
them. So as far as what my future holds, it's undefined.
Okay.
I don't know. I do know that I still struggle with a lot of things. It's definitely harder for me to do. You know, it was challenging to go through school and stuff. And I actually did apply for, you know, aid in school and stuff for some support, a little bit longer time on exams and homework assignments and stuff, just to give myself enough time to accomplish some of the stuff. But
well, that's just smart. Those are good decisions.
Yeah, and I still got some motility issues. Only a lot when I'm tired, though. Like if I get tired, my right knee gives out. It just kind of collapses.
Just says, I'm done.
It's like I'm done, and I'll fall. So as far as, you know, like things like that go, I definitely still have my, you know, like I have my brand. I've been branded, you know, with an accident. So, but other than that, like life's amazing, you know, like I could dwell on the negatives of all the things that are hard for me, but I choose not to. I really want, you know, my life to be awesome.
Right.
And that's kind of just the way I'd like to put it. You know, I like, there's challenges and stuff like that, but there are ways to overcome them, and there's ways to grow and just like the things that you've given and what you have is you can make those things like top tier, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you physically limited on things that you can do or that you're comfortable doing, or is your physical only, like, you know, you said your knee might give out if you're tired, but do you exercise at all? Do you get to do any of that stuff? I just don't know, you know, when you've got this kind of situation on your head, does it limit some of the stuff that you actually get to do or are able to do?
No, not really. More so, I kind of limit myself because there's a lot of things I can't do. I can't do high impact sports. I can't do anything like that anymore, just for fear of further damage. Like if I get a concussion, it might be game over. It's kind of the way they described it.
Right.
So as far as like the things I do, like with the limits that I've self-prescribed, no, like I don't really have any limitations.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, if we look at, obviously, you know, you walked in here, we're having these conversations, you're using your right side, you know, all of the things that are going on compared to what you started with after the incident. It's just an amazing, amazing story.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I always like to ask is, looking back, right, from where you are now, coming through this journey, what would you tell yourself at that point, right? Like after the incident or even before the incident, you know, whatever. What is something that you would share with yourself, you know, to help you?
Yeah, that is a really good question. Probably if, you know, during those like just awfully dark moments, you know, with my personality now and stuff, I would just like remind myself, you know, like, don't give up. Like, it's just like a wrinkle in time, you know, I guess is the best way I could say it. Like, there's just like only so much you can do in small moments, but there's like so much you can do if you keep going, I guess is the way I'd say it. Like, there's so much that like I've learned about like just not giving up and just like that like will, you know, just like choosing to not give up and choosing to like just take it one step at a time and like allow yourself, you know, to have that grace and be like, there's so much that I wish that I could do or remember or like, you know, just do by myself, you know, and like looking back at like reminding myself that now, I'd be like, just take a step backwards almost and allow yourself to heal, you know, and allow yourself to understand that like it doesn't have to be right now, so.
Well, cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's such an amazing journey, and congrats on the baby that's coming. When is the
Thank
baby
you.
due?
September 5th.
Woohoo! Very good. That's awesome. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you for sharing with us
Thank you.
today.